But of course, for our ruling class, a well-educated proletariat is a genuine threat, because if you're better educated, you're better equipped. I'll give you another example from immigration. ICE and that homunculus Thomas Homan has been chirping nonstop in general to mainstream outlets, right-wing mainstream resources, over and over again about how the radical leftists have been teaching undocumented immigrants how to avoid the authorities. And they're genuinely crying that the radical leftists and the Antifa are teaching undocumented migrants their rights. That's what they're upset about, because they can't dominate them as hard as they want to when the people that they're trying to dominate, the people that they're trying to like break into the homes of, are well equipped with the limited amount of rights that they have in that process that the American government offers them. Isn't that crazy? Because they don't want you to be educated. That's it. Whether you're an undocumented migrant or a documented U.S. citizen, they just don't want you to be educated. They don't want you to be educated about your rights. They don't want you to be educated in general about what to do. They don't want you to exercise critical thinking skills. They don't want you to know that knowledge is power, not to, get all Sigma grindset on your ass. They want you to be stupid, because a stupid population is servile. A stupid population can be used and abused. A stupid population looks at planes falling out of the sky and thinks, oh, this has nothing to do with air traffic control being consistently underfunded and forcing like 8 dudes to sit in a tower and do the job of like 40. That's probably not going to cause problems. You know what'll cause the real problems? DEI. And if you're stupid, that shit hits hard as fuck. You're like, God damn, you're right. Them blacks are working in the air traffic control and they're disabled. And I think that's the reason why. And it has nothing to do with the fact that now we're forcing 6 guys to do the job of 40. And you can't even translate that to your own immediate circumstances too, because that kind of austerity and that kind of profit seeking exists in every sector. So whether you're working in construction, or whether you're working as a fucking nurse, or whether you're working as a goddamn teacher, or whether you're working in any sector whatsoever, you probably are experiencing that in your daily life. The fact that your boss has fired some of the workforce and is now making you do the work of others that used to do that. Your burden is higher now at your job place. And if you can understand that in your immediate life, how can you not figure out that there is literally that exact same problem that exists in all of these other sectors as well? Whether it be ATC, air traffic control, or any number of different regulatory agencies. Yeah, I said job place. Shut up. Give me a goddamn break, okay? It's 8:22 here. I've been live. I've been up since 4 a.m. Please be kind to me. Here.
So here's what happened.
I will never forget that there is literally a HasanAbi head that moved to Finland because I did a Young Turks video back in the day about why Finland's education is the #1 on the planet. And a HasanAbi head, even back then, a decade ago, watched that video and went, I'm moving to Finland. And I remember because he sent me a Finnish flag in the P.O. box and was like, you changed my life. Because of you, I moved to Finland and I became a teacher in Finland. Wealth equality is definitely a solution. So many problems at the public school level are from students with social and economic disadvantages, but a huge problem too is the anti-education culture that's been growing. It's discouraging to hear students consistently push back on being taught because they don't see the benefits. Oh, sure, of course. But if you make education, if you make education better overall, you're still going to genuinely improve that culture surrounding education and the importance of it to begin with. It's a multifaceted problem.
Finland's schools sucked on the level that ours suck on. When they tested the world's kids, both Finland and us were usually about the same, somewhere down the list of nations. But Finland didn't like that. So they tried some new ideas, and in no time, Finland shot to the top of the world. Their students were #1. How did they do that? That was the one question I wanted an answer to, and I went straight to see the enemy's Minister of Education. Before I could say anything, she blurted out their top secret.
They do not have homework.
Wait, so you reduce the homework you give them at school?
Yes. They should have more time to be kids, to be youngsters, to enjoy the life.
Finland students have the shortest school days and the shortest school years in the entire Western world. They do better by going to school less. How many languages do you speak?
English, yeah, Swedish, Spanish.
Finnish and
Swedish, Finnish, English, and German.
French, German,
Finnish and English.
English, Swedish, and French, and Spanish.
If there was one thing I heard over and over again from the Finns, it was that America should stop teaching to a standardized test.
What you are teaching your students is to do well on those tests, and you're not really teaching them anything.
No, we are teaching them. We're teaching them how to flunk a test, and then a bunch of schools fail the test, and those schools are turned into charter schools, and then somebody makes a lot of money.
but school is about finding your happiness, finding what, finding a way to learn what makes you happy.
They figure now about 1/3 of the school time the students are in school is spent preparing for the standardized test. And so they've eliminated a lot of things that aren't on the test. So music is gone, art is gone, poetry is gone. Yeah, in many schools.
We try to teach them everything that they need so that they could actually use their brain as well as they can, including PE, including arts, including music, anything that can actually make brain work better.
The children need to be baking.
I mean, this is just hyper focusing on like the different ways in which the Finnish education system works, but obviously it's not as comprehensive. There is some structural differences as well that I want to mention. I covered that extensively on my one YouTube video many years ago for the Young Turks. Let me see if I can find it after this.
Be singing, they should be doing art and going on nature walks and doing all these things because there's this very short time that they're allowed to be children.
If you don't have standardized tests here in Finland, how do you know which schools are the best? And, people need a list.
The neighborhood school is the best school. It is not different than the school which can be, for example, situated in the town center, because all the schools in Finland, they are all equal.
When we move to a new city, we never ask where the best school is.
5 reasons why Finland is a global education leader. 2 million views. August 15th, 2016. It's very cringe. I'm just going to give you guys a warning. It's incredibly cringe. I was so cringe back then. I mean, I still am cringe, and I'm certain that a decade in the future, I will look back at the stuff that I'm doing now and say, I'm cringe as hell. But
It's never a question.
So nobody has to shop for schools.
There's nothing different in any of our schools. They are the same.
It is illegal in Finland to set up a school and charge tuition. That's why, for the most part, private schools don't exist. And what that means is that the rich parents have to make sure that the public schools are great.
that's a great take too. It's just like when you universalize these structures, then you're kind of forcing those with the most power and influence in society to also make sure that their children is getting the best quality education. If they sidestep that, okay, if they are able to sidestep that with wealth, then all of a sudden that wealth disparity allows them to turn a blind eye to how shitty schooling is in general. This is how it works, baby. Question mark? BS, East Asia exists. Sorry, this is not for everyone in Finland. Student is the best according to who? Nah, I don't think this is a good idea. Oh my Lord. I love when you say East Asia exists, sorry, and then hail that as like the best possible outcomes in general when, kids in Korea are like killing themselves over their 16-hour workday. That is one of the worst aspects of East Asian education. I already factor that into this conversation. I'm in Japan right now. They go to school 7 days a week, man. It's crazy. They go to school 7 days a week. It's insane. At least 6 days a week, but I've seen students in uniform on Sundays too, so I feel like they are also going to school on Sundays too. Twitch chat is just a never-ending hell of chatters being presented with facts and rejecting them with no reason. No, there is a reason. It's social conditioning. And secondly, that's why I think this medium is so good for doing what I do, because this medium allows me to directly talk to people. You do something about the education issue, definitely don't worry about all the other projects to fund Americans, bro. I mean, education is just one aspect of it. I have poured hours and hours into all of the issues that face modern American society. This is just simply one aspect of it. But the problem is there are so many issues in every facet of existence in modern American society, every single one. And it's all multifaceted, and it's all designed in a way to slowly but surely give you worse results year in and year out. And if you actually succeed in spite of it all, you are an endlessly fortunate person. And there's unfortunately no simple solution to any of this, with one exception. You can make a systemic analysis and obviously point the finger at profit seeking. So you shouldn't school kids for college? Wait, what? In school in the East teaches more in Finland and help children in academia, so school shouldn't prepare you for academia. Cram school is not good. No, cram school is not good at all. Are you kidding me? I'm not saying you shouldn't be actually studying for entrance exams, or that like the standardized testing that exists in these countries are, I mean, I don't think the standardized testing structure that exists in these countries are the perfect solution, but I don't know what the best possible solution would look like. Having said that, however, I think we should, yes, absolutely make college much easier to get into, and also on top of that, make it free. If you can get a decent level of education, no matter which college you go to, and that is paid for. I was talking to a professor out here in Japan, and he was telling me how shocked he was. He's an American. How shocked he was that he's in this college, and his students, their dream is to become baggage carriers. These guys are getting a college education in a place where they have to pay for college, right? And their dream is to become baggage handlers, okay? No, it's not Jeff. Stop saying Jeff, all right? He's not the only college professor I know out here. As you saw, there are also even HasanAbi heads that are college professors out here as well. There are many of you in this chat, despite my endless dunking on PhDs and saying that they're not real doctors. Seemingly, there are plenty of PhDs and plenty of professors that are in this community and are HasanAbi heads. And it's really interesting because for me, I was like, no, that's perfect. That means that these jobs that would often be overlooked in other countries are seen as like perfectly valid, well-paying jobs with decent benefits and security. That like you don't have to aspire to be an entrepreneur after college or anything like that. That you can just get a job and have that be your permanent, permanent comfort. Have that be your vessel for financial security for yourself and your family. And I think that mentality is unimaginable to the average American, where they're like, what the what do you mean? You want to be a baggage handler? Who cares? If it pays you well enough, plenty of people would do that job. You think people dream of working at the oil rigs? No. It's just that, especially if you live in Western Pennsylvania, where industry is left, your towns are now desolate with no opportunities whatsoever. It's the best paying job out there. That's it. So if baggage handling or working at a KFC or working at a McDonald's was actually enough for you to live comfortably, a lot more people would be doing that job and be happy doing that job. Because for so many people, it's just about the dignity that you get from work, and it's just job security. It's just financial freedom in general. Nobody wakes up one day and thinks, oh, I want to be an oilman. I want to work at an oil rig. It's the best job possible. Nobody thinks that about working at the coal mines. It's just that those are historically, and even in contemporary society for oil rigs and whatnot, the jobs that pay the most. So if teaching also gave you the same level of benefits, to bring this conversation all the way back to education, if teaching gave you those benefits, if teaching gave you a decent salary where you can live comfortably and raise a family on one salary, we would have the best teachers. We would have the happiest teachers, and happier teachers that are well paid, that are not stressed by the regular burdens that they have to overcome on a daily basis right now, would actually create the better educated next generation that would carry the torch of American prosperity. That's it. You can also become a streamer and propagate terrorists. Seems to be working fine. Yes, you can also do that as well. Propagate terrorism, as in argue against the true terror that is the American military and the Israeli military. You know, you could do that as well. People like this will never actually understand that a better future is possible. Because if you think that the endless amount of money that we spend building weapons of war do not contribute to this problem, You're delusional. You are mistaken. You have been deluded. Every dollar spent on a bomb could be spent on a teacher's salary. Every dollar spent on R&D for finding out new ways of lasering children from the sky could be spent on bricks, building houses, could be spent on concrete poured over a road, could be spent on hardening this infrastructure and improving and universalizing your fiber optic network to ensure that everyone has access to faster internet speeds. Every single dollar that we spend on our military industrial complex could be going back to improving American lives, could be going back to research and development in medical technology. Says the Houthi promoter. It's not that deep, bro. You can't compare it to oil rig workers. Wow, we just figured out basic economics. Great job. Says the Houthi promoter. If you don't support the Houthis, you are delusional. Good point and great take, Hasan Piker. I think one of the funniest parts about this kind of attitude is that it's mostly coming from liberals who genuinely think that they are intellectually superior to Republicans, not realizing that they're churning out the exact same kind of thought-terminating propaganda in here right now. You are no different to me than the average QAnon supporter. You understand? It's sad. We're talking about improving the lives of every American, yourself included, and you're like, oh, dude, you're a Houthi supporter. Why? Because the Yemeni administration under the Ansar Allah leadership is one of the few countries and one of the few groups in the region that said, hey, we're going to take matters into our own hands and we're actually going to implement a blockade on the Red Sea as long as the genocide in Gaza continues. And they stopped implementing that blockade once the genocide in Gaza at least took a ceasefire. They even released the hostages that they had over the Galaxy ship recently in the aftermath of the cessation of hostilities, at least in the interim period. Now, that's an additional point of pressure that they've launched. And regardless of my personal distaste or my personal opinion on their domestic affairs or whatever they believe internally, that does not change the dynamic whatsoever with what they're doing in terms of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. I don't know, man, just because they do one good thing, does it make them good people and they're simultaneously doing 50 bad things? Wait, what? Just because they do one good thing? Dude, the argument is simple. America, during World War II, was segregationist, homophobic, misogynistic, patriarchal society. And yet, we still, and I myself included, cheer for easy company. You want to know why? Because they were fighting against the Nazi scourge. That's it. And if you can make that calculation in your mind for America and the American military being on the right side of history, you can understand a very similar dynamic ever present in this conversation. There's never been a moment where I've said like the Ansar Allah's banner is totally valid and awesome. Okay. I have been critical. I have actually openly stated numerous times, of course, that anti-Semitism is completely unacceptable. Anti-Semitism also very much existed within the American military and the American government at the time, mind you, during World War II. But that doesn't stop me from looking at a situation like that and saying, hey, those boys, I salute them every day of the week. And that's it. I love FDR. I talk about how America still relies on the New Deal. America still benefits from the New Deal's implementation, creating bountiful infrastructure where commerce could flow. FDR did a lot of good. You know what else he did? Internment camps for the Japanese. FDR also did a lot of bad for black people, cutting them out of the New Deal. And yet, I can still champion a lot of his policies, regardless of those other aspects. So many people, I think, turn into the one friend who's being too woke when it comes to this kind of analysis. Do you see what I'm saying? And applying this sort of nuance to the conversation should never be considered terrorism. It's just a way to say, shut the fuck up. There's an argument that FDR's social democrat policies delayed the proper conditions for a true proletariat movement in America. Yes, that is the correct argument. Yes, social democracy is an extension. The welfare state is simply a lifeline for capitalism to continue. Libs talk about systemic racism, but can't apply it globally. All right, let's get back to our two demons in the White House.